Toys for Bob finally dropped an update a year after they had officially became an indie studio. And I was lucky enough to actually get this update as an exclusive video for the channel. And today I'm going to go over this update line by line to see if there were any new details that we can glean. Let's talk about it. What's up guys, Canadian Guy here, and I am finally back with the deep dive analysis that I promised in my last video that talks about Toys for Bob's recent development update. If you haven't seen that video, I would highly recommend that you check it out after this video is over. Oh, and to all the people that suggested that the interview was all made up, Paul Yan literally commented on that video's announcement with his personal Twitter profile on, well, Twitter, saying, "Thanks for celebrating our anniversary. So, Hakuna your tatas." To quickly summarize, I had requested an interview with Toys for Bob about a month ago. Due to scheduling and just general busyness, I could not land a video interview like I've been able to in the past. But I was able to get an email interview with the legendary Paul Yan, Toys for Bob's co-studio head and creative director. Now, some might think an analysis is overboard, but this is Paul Yan we're talking about here. Whenever Paul is involved in something, he always seems to like to leave a bit of breadcrumbs behind to kind of give something to the fans and something for them to grab and attach to and try to solve and figure out. Like his GDC talk where he casually showed a piece of concept art for what would become Crash Team Rumble without comment. Or showing off the Gempad boost icon from Crash Team Rumble in Crash's 25th anniversary video when the game hadn't even been announced but was rumored. Whether intentional or not, Paul always seems to want to give hints and hope to the fan bases that he is involved in. With that said, let's get to his answers and then I'll inject my own thoughts and analysis after each answer. Right away, after I asked how the studio was doing, Paul said, "Hi CG, I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. You're right, we have been silent, but alive and kicking. It's more of a deep focus kind of silence." We're not going to be digging too deep here, it's the first question. But this line of "it's more of a deep focus kind of silence" will be a reoccurring theme that you will see. The next question was me asking what it means for Toys for Bob to be an indie developer. Paul responded with, "Being indie for us means that we now exist and operate as an independent company. We're no longer a unit within a larger corporation. That independence comes with exciting new freedoms to run things our own way, but it also comes with a lot of new responsibilities. The main focus here is that independence comes with exciting new freedoms to run things our own way." That is something that I think is a key statement to those who have groaned about Toys for Bob having to work on titles that Toys for Bob is not suited for, most predominantly Call of Duty. I could explain deeply about how this decision to have Toys for Bob work on Call of Duty doesn't make any sort of sense. I mean, why would you put them on a gritty first-person shooter? Or I could just show you this meme. Does this paint a good enough picture? Yeah, great, we can move on. So Toys for Bob will probably not return to any of these games unless for some reason they finally decide that they want to, which I doubt. The next question I asked was, what has it been like to be an indie studio so far? The answer is pretty long, but I'm gonna highlight a few details. Basically, Paul is saying that they had to do the unglamorous work of drafting legal papers, banking, and more, one of which is locking in publishing agreements. This is interesting because we can actually kind of clock when it happened. Xbox's head of game studios, Matt Booty, announced in March of 2024 that Toys for Bob and Xbox had came to an agreement. Additionally, Paul Yan joked about updating the website as it was a subject of discussion for a little bit, with it going down, causing an uproar, being updated with just a tiki mask and causing yet another uproar, to finally it settling to what it is now. But there is an interesting comment at the end. Once we got through the majority of the initial setup, the team very quickly picked up where we left off, and we've been off to the races ever since. Picking up where they left off. The reason I clocked this is because we know that Toys for Bob started an unannounced project while being under the Activision umbrella in December 2023, meaning it would be an Activision-owned title that they would be resuming to develop. Now remember, Paul just said that their independence allows them to do things their own way, meaning whatever it is that they are choosing to resume development with is something that they want to work on. There's more about this later on one that's going to hammer home my point. The next question I asked was about Toys for Bob's physical studio shutting down and Toys for Bob becoming a 100% remote studio. Overall, he clarified a lot of the panic that happened last year and revealed that at the time of this interview, Toys for Bob has basically been fully remote for the past 5 years. So whatever project they are technically working on, it will not be affected by the studio becoming officially 100% remote because they already kind of were 100% remote. Now, the next question revealed something very interesting. Remember how Xbox's Mac Booty last year announced that they struck a partnership with Toys for Bob? Remember what was said about the scope of the project? Quote, "It will be similar to games that Toys for Bob has made in the past." Well, I asked what stood out to them since working in a partnership with Xbox, and Paul said, "Team Xbox and Activision have been very supportive. Our check-ins almost always end with them asking, how else can we help? We work with some wonderful people that genuinely care and want us to succeed, and I'm very grateful to be collaborating with them." Your alarm bells should be ringing here. Team Xbox and Activision. This is the first time publicly that it's been officially stated that Toys for Bob is currently working with both Xbox and Activision on their current project, which means the title that Toys for Bob is working on is considered as a Activision-based title. That would be the only reason that Activision would be involved in the first place. And this absolutely checks out because in the past, the CEO of Xbox, Phil Spencer, has stated publicly that when it comes to studios bringing back classic games, he likes to have the previous owners involved in some way in its development. The only reason Activision would be involved with the development is if the franchise was previously owned by them before the acquisition was complete. Oh, but we are not done yet. The next question I asked was about Toys for Bob's vision. What did they want their studio to be known for? Here's what Paul had to say. "For me, it all goes back to our mission. We ultimately want to inspire love, joy, and laughter for the inner child in all gamers. Toys for Bob is at our best when we are crafting whimsical worlds full of colorful characters, and we're going to follow our noses to the opportunities and partnerships that align with that mission, whether that's through original or established IP." Paul is stating here something that is very apparent. The studio wants to be known for crafting whimsical worlds full of colorful characters, further flexing their desire to have creative liberty over what they want to make, which are games that they are already known for, pushing away the notion of the idea that they ever want to work on something that is even in the atmosphere of the gritty Call of Duty games. The next question definitely got a lot of people excited when I mentioned it. I asked if Toys for Bob could work with any company on any franchise, what would it be? There's so many, and that's one of the exciting new possibilities of being independent. One company we'd like to work with is one we're already working with, Team Xbox. They've been a great partner, and they also have a very interesting roster of characters that Toys for Bob could have a lot of fun with. The Honey Bear is the first one that comes to mind. I think we can all agree Banjo's been hibernating long enough, right? Now, Banjo fans, I hear your excitement. I'm excited too. Some of you may even be thinking, wait, could Toys for Bob's current project be a brand new Banjo game? Well, I'm gonna say, unfortunately, no, because one, Paul wouldn't name drop their current project out of the blue. Two, why would Activision be involved in a franchise that they never owned or probably have any interest in? And three, back in June 2024, a very reliable source, Jez Gordon, stated that categorically there is no Banjo Kazooie in development at that point in time.
But I can tell you right now, categorically, there is no Banjo game in development as of this podcast on the 26th of June, 2024. There is no Banjo game in development right now.
But don't get too sad yet, Banjo fans, because I want to dedicate a whole video breaking down this statement and the possibilities beyond it. So you're gonna want to make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Lastly, I asked Paul the question that everyone has had on their mind. Can they give a hint to what they are currently working on? His answer was, I can't spill the beans just yet, but I will say we're very much in the thick of development. The team is very thrilled about how the experience is shaping up. This game is big and ambitious and pushes our craft to new heights, and I can't wait to tell you more about it when the time is right. So, no beans were spilled, right? Right? Well, there's one more detail about this interview that people may not know. When I sent my questions over to Toys for Bob, Paul had decided that he was going to respond to my questions specifically in purple. I wonder why. But now let's bring it all together. Toys for Bob is currently working on a project that is a collaborative effort between Xbox and Activision. Toys for Bob, being a third party, allows them the freedom to choose what they want to develop. And according to them, they want to make whimsical worlds full of colorful characters, which would leave us to assume that the project that they are currently working on is exactly that. However, their current project started while under Activision's management and resumed after they became an indie studio by their own choice. Activision is involved because while Xbox does own Activision in every single one of their franchises, it is on record that Xbox prefers if the previous owners of a classic franchise is involved in its newly found development. This, of course, would also rule out any harsh, gritty games in Activision's book of IP. So Toys for Bob is working on an Activision-based title that is whimsical and colorful. Finally, Pollyann, by his choice, decided to write all of his answers for this interview in the color purple. And according to Xbox, the project Toys for Bob that is working on is, quote, similar to games that Toys for Bob has made in the past. I cannot dance around the bush anymore, and I can't spell it out any clearer. Toys for Bob is currently working on a brand new Spyro title. Whether it's this interview that convinced you, or maybe my Spyro 4 report from last year, or even my recent video about all the evidence that's piled up, it is so clear to me what's being worked on right now. If you want to see the avalanche of evidence that I've been talking about, check out this video right here and it'll fill you in and catch you up to speed from what you've missed from the past year. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Bye-bye.